keyword ranking strategies are you currently using? The entire goal for ranking is how many orders can we possibly get through that one specific search term. Now, I know there's a lot of talk in our space around like, oh, target like long tail search variations of the keyword and all that stuff. That does help. It's not going to have the most impact. So the most impact for any ranking keyword is going to be getting orders specifically through that search, getting a lot of orders. So we don't just want one, we want a lot. And also making sure that our click-through rate and our conversion rate are really high on those key terms. So I'll be honest with you, the biggest impact on ranking you can have is really by picking the right keywords. So if your question was, how do I figure out what keywords do I rank on? I would say like look for things that you can afford to spend a lot, i.e. you're not losing money, meaning ACoS isn't like so crazy high that you can't afford it. And you want to look for things that you have really good conversion rates. Bonus points if you have good click-through rates here, but I would go for conversion rates over click-through rates. And then you just want to like put money towards that. Now, if you say, how do I rank on this specific keyword, then that question is a little bit different. And I'm just going to tell you like push volume. Now, what I recognize is that me saying, hey, push volume through a one specific search might mean that that's not super profitable. So that's where I'm saying like the real trick is going to lie in the actual targets that you select to rank on. Other things, some pro tips and some pro hacks are more advanced but can be helpful here, is if you have a specific search where it's like crazy expensive and you just don't really have the budget for it. Again, that goes back to keyword selection. Make sure you're selecting keywords where you can afford to spend that budget on it. But if we're on a specific keyword, you want to make sure that you're showing high enough in search that you can really get those good conversions and get those eyeballs on the product. But maybe you can't afford a ton of clicks because there's a lot of clicks and they're really expensive. And use the budget as sort of a lever to cap or meter how much money you are spending for that ranking play. Now, how effective that is going to be how many orders your market is making, and that's relative. So when I talk about trying to get a large amount of orders, it's relative to the other competition that is on that particular search page. Hello, and welcome back to another episode of Ask Junglr. This is the time and the place where you can get answers to your Amazon advertising questions. And we always go through a lot of detail today because questions, what I have found is that a lot of the times the answer is it depends, but there's certain things that it depends on. So what should you be looking for? What should you be looking at when you're trying to assess if the ad strategy you are running is right for you? And that is what we focus in on this show. So the format of this is you can drop your Amazon advertising questions into the chat and I will pull them up. And for about an hour, we sit here and we jam out on Amazon advertising, which, by the way, if you are listening in, feel free to give a thumbs up, a like, or drop in the chat where you're listening in from. I always like to make sure that my mic is working, my camera is working, because I have had once or twice where like the mic cuts out or something crazy. So ideally, fingers crossed, everything looks good. It looks like I have the proper mic set up. Sometimes it gets a little funny. So if audio seems off throughout this, or if video is having issues, feel free to immediately drop it in the chat and I can troubleshoot it, or we can troubleshoot it on the back end. But a quick word on why this show is called Ask Junglr. That is because I am the co-founder of an Amazon ads agency called Junglr, hence the name. And our focus is really on incremental strategy at scale. So we've seen it all, done it all, been doing it all for 6 or 7 years at this point. Cut our teeth across a ton of different complex categories, anything from supplements where cost per clicks are really high and you need to factor in lifetime value to be able to make sure that your numbers work, all the way down to clothing where there's immense amount of complexity in terms of scale and also a lot of difficulties when it comes to just sort of making sure that you're coordinating ads with things like inventory positions, also some really high volume categories And we have clients that range all the way from being super, super focused on, hey, all we're doing is optimizing ad to maximize net profit dollars. And then we have a lot of clients that are like pedal to the metal 24/7, let's go hard, and everything in between. So whenever you ask an Amazon ads question, the more context you give, the more insightful I can be on the specific answers to your very unique just kind of what you're, I mean, feel free to ask like just a general question on like, hey, how do you use placements? What's the base ranking strategies? How do you assess keyword match types? There's plenty other like very maybe more broader questions around advertising. We get a lot of those as well. But you can always feel free to ask like a very specific question to your unique category, your unique sort of things that you're dealing with. And we are perfectly able to answer those questions as well. So super, super excited for this one. Last thing I say before I start pulling up the chat and we get into this is that highly recommend you ask your questions sooner rather than later. Because what I find with these is, again, I'm going to be here for about an hour. We're going to be jamming out. You're going to learn a lot. This is essentially a weekly masterclass on Amazon advertising every single week, which is awesome. And I love being able to provide these. But again, it's a first come, first serve. First question asked, first question answered. So the sooner you get it in, the better. And then sometimes throughout, this entire live stream, if you ask a question at the very end, I'll do my best to get all questions answered. But sometimes things squeak in at the end and I'm like, hey, sorry, I got to go because I got other calls and projects and things to get done today. Anyways, that being said, I am excited. So Ashley has a great question around deals and then how coordinating deals with sort of the advertising. So there's a couple ways to think about this. So let's go through it. So the question is, I've never used deals before, but I'm wondering how I can use them to boost Q4 sales. What are the best use cases for lightning deals? Should I use them before sales events? So this is a fantastic question. What we found is that it really depends on your margins and your inventory positions. So you would want to factor in the deal prices. Also, there's fees associated with running these deals. Some of our clients will use like really, really steeply discounted items for like liquidation. That can be really useful. There, of course, it's not really necessarily a profitability play, but it's more like, hey, I got to move these volumes. Now, if, say, for example, you're going to be faced with storage fees because due to excess inventory and you just need to move that inventory, then you also will you basically want to look at all facets of profitability, again, storage fees being one of those, and just say like, hey, am I going to be losing money if I run these deals? Because there are some times where that can happen. And so you just want to make sure that all those things are in place. And then providing you feel like you can make profitability by running deals, again, unless you're talking about kind of a liquidation factor, then it can be very lucrative to run them. So a lot of our clients have had a lot of success with it. But this second part to the question is a really like a good nuance to this, because the question is, should you run regular ads with deals? Will it drain spend or will it make efficient cost and price better? So what I would recommend doing is factoring in the ad spend that you have with the deal. Now, it really depends. If you really are wanting to like move as much volume as absolutely possible, in our experience, it is beneficial to keep some advertising running. Exceptions to this may be, for example, we have some clients that are running a really aggressive deal, again, to like move and liquidate some products. However, that's a variation. So what we did is we've paused advertising on that variation, but we're still running advertising in general on other variations that don't have that deal. So they don't have that like potentially negative profit associated with that. And so that's one of the things that we're doing. So we're still technically driving traffic to the listing. A really great thing if you want to sort of maintain advertising, but then also you want to be careful with how much you're spending, because again, deals, there's a cost associated with it and the price point of the products is lower. So I would say deals, while they can be wildly beneficial, again, you want to go into them eyes wide open and understanding, how is this going to affect my profits? Because what you don't want to happen, be it running ads, be it, deals, be it, decreasing price to generate sales, like, there are times where you, again, may have negative, break even profits or negative profits on a certain item. And maybe, again, that's to like clear out inventory. So like, okay, so maybe this is better than having Amazon like destroy some inventory. Maybe I just get cash flow, I just break even, I just, kind of recoup hopefully some of the cash from those items. So that can definitely be a strategy. But again, my recommendation is always sit down, run the numbers, decide, okay, if I run this deal, do I have wiggle room for advertising in addition to this? Or is this deal so steep that that's going to create issues? And then, okay, if that does create issues, is this a variation listing? Do I still have traffic going to other variations? Or is this a standalone listing? And then in that case, if you do turn off advertising, one thing that you would want to look at is, how well does this product have organic visibility outside of advertising? So a really quick and dirty way to analyze that is going to be what we call ad sale percentage. So that's taking your ad sales and you're dividing it by your total sales. And that just is like, what percentage of my total sales is coming from advertising? Because if, like, say 100% of my sales are coming from advertising, my product is highly dependent on advertising for it to get that visibility. So I know if I turn off advertising, even if I'm running like an insane deal, like, nobody's going to see it. So then that's a problem, right? But if I have like a really great ad sale percentage, let's say like I have like 40, only 40% of my total sales are coming from advertising, well, then there's that whole other 60% of visibility that I know is coming from not having to advertise. And because I know that this deal is going to help increase conversion rates, and I can be okay with sacrificing a little bit of that visibility. Now, in terms of turning down the ads, there's a couple strategies here as well. One strategy, one that we typically use, I would kind of use a two-part approach, because one of them is just simply to go in and like pause everything, or do what we call like a soft pause, which is lowering the campaign budgets to $1. That's one that we use very frequently. But the thing with that is it's kind of like an all or nothing, like, oh, let's just turn it off, turn it down, right? So another strategy that I really like is to do that soft pause or even straight pausing on all of the campaigns where the return just isn't that great. And when I say return, I mean like the ACoS is higher. And then what we would do is we might do some like budget optimizations, or still keep anything that has really good efficiencies. So we know that we're still going to be getting visibility on the product, but we're not putting that spend towards visibility on things that we know just doesn't have a high return for us. So then we just slowly, like, we get a little bit more profitable. And the quick, some people talk about doing bid optimizations to achieve this. In my experience, bids are really used to like control cost per click. There's a lot of testing and things that go into that that make it a little bit difficult to do that kind of overnight, where when you're doing budget optimization or pausing, you can do that very, very quickly with relative certainty as to the performance of that. So that is always our preference when it comes to those things. Have you seen sponsor brand ads have sales attributed to other? Yes, they do. Oh my goodness. I have a video for you. We have other sellers in the listing up below map. Their reports are showing the sales at the reseller pricing. Yes, that is entirely a possibility. I have a way to track this actually, but one of the things that I use to track it is a child ASIN, and unfortunately, it sounds like they're selling under the same ASIN, but it's a different SKU, which is going to make your life a little bit harder. All right, that being said, yes, that is something that can happen with sponsored brand sales. That is called halo sales. And so this is actually super relevant, because if you ever sell anything that is licensed products, you have to be so very, 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 very aware of this. And also sponsor brands can be used strategically. So I'm going to talk about like kind of how this can show up in the account and pros and cons to it. So basically, yes, if anyone is selling underneath that same brand as you, it doesn't even have to be on the same listing. It just has to be sold underneath the brand. If there is a shopper interaction with your sponsored brand ads, and then the shopper later within a 14-day window goes on to purchase something else from underneath that brand, that sale is going to be attributed back to that sponsored brand ad. Now, I'll tell you, like, there actually is an advantage to this for certain brands that we are leveraging for them, but let's talk about the cons. So let's say like we actually partner with some sellers who have licenses for like Disney and Nickelodeon. As you can imagine, the amount of products that are being sold under Disney and Nickelodeon is like a lot. There's a lot of products. So if somebody is searching for, say, a Disney product, and then they go on to purchase another Disney product, like because there's such a strong like brand loyalty in that brand, the probability of this to trigger is like immense. And so in that account, we are being very, very careful with sponsored brands. And the reason why this happens is because unless you're running like a video ad that's directed to a product page, I do believe those are retail aware, but the regular sponsored brand ads are not what's called retail aware, which means that your ad shuts down when you don't have the buy box. Now, for sponsored product ads, those ads are retail aware. So if you don't have the buy box, there is not that sort of association. What it is with sponsored brand ads. So yes, this is a factor. This is a probability. I want to see if I can pull it up. Because there was a video that I did on this. All right. Let me share this with you. And to be honest, this sheet may or may not work for you. This is, yeah. So the title is You're Making Sales for Someone Else, sponsored brand ads. So let me share this and drop it in the chat for anyone interesting. Because what I actually do is I show you how to pull the data, because this was something that we were running into with one account. So I actually built a sheet where we can look at sort of like our true, like what the ad console was telling us was our ACOS. And then when we factored out those halo sales that were not for our own catalog, what was our actual ACOS? Because in this account, it was like really beneficial. We were doing really well with sponsor brands, so we wanted to continuously run them. However, we wanted to fully track like what our actual performance was, and then just factor that into should we or should we not be doing more of that. Now that will actually show you where you're making sales on other ASINs. So if they're selling underneath the same ASIN, I don't know if that sheet will work for you. You can go ahead and try it. I would definitely go watch the video because I explain that more in depth. But I mean, the benefit is we do have some brands. They're more like enterprise brands, and some of their strategy is actually to have resellers on the account. And what they're doing is they're running ads, and they're okay with those resellers benefiting because those resellers are making purchase orders for the actual for the brand. And so like they're still getting their money even though it's a different way. And so that actually is an advantage to us, and we're intentionally running sponsored brand ads there, knowing that there's halo sales, but we're actually taking advantage. So although I might have told you about halo sales and you're like, oh my gosh, this is like the worst thing ever, why would Amazon do it? There are strategic advantages to a lot of these things. Unfortunately, a lot of these strategic advantages are more when you get into kind of like enterprise situations, which means that a lot of times for like private label sellers or like, you know, retail sellers, it's like it's not really worth it. So what I would say is see if you can like identify where this is happening, how much of this is happening. And then if you really want to run sponsored brand ads, I would recommend running video ads directing to like to the product pages. And then I don't believe trying to remember the documentation if those are retail aware or not. You might just push more into sponsored product ads and just not run sponsored brands, possibly. But I would try and track it. But fantastic question. Not many people know that happens, actually. Plenty of pitfalls in there. Is there a basic formula, e.g. 20% for ranking, 20% for branded campaigns, testing low bid, struggle balancing, making money while continuously growing the brand? So I don't know if I have like a really clear 20% of this, 30%, like that kind of thing when it comes to balancing and growth. Because it's more about what is the performance of that ranking. So an example would be, let's say you have two different scenarios where there's 20% of ranking, spend going towards ranking, but that 20% is like 100% ACoS, because that's just kind of the ACoS you need to have to be that aggressive on the ranking campaigns, versus another brand where we might have 20% of our spend into ranking, but I'm like, oh my gosh, this is at break even ACoS. Like in scenario number 2, because we're at break even ACoS, I would be like, heck yes, let's scale it. So then my percentage towards ranking is going to be much higher versus the other brand where I have 100% ACoS. I need to be really careful with how much spend I'm allocating there just due to performance metrics. So I will tell you this, I wouldn't overthink it. What you want to see is what is working well, what is underperforming, and then you want to make sure that you're pushing your spend towards what's working and then optimizing or potentially reducing spend on what is not working. Now, here is the other layer that I would add on to that to think, because in some cases where I say, hey, just do more of what's working, do less of what's not working, sometimes your ranking campaigns are again, I just talked about that scenario when like we still need to be pushing for ranking, but performance just isn't there as much. Or say like auto campaigns are like crushing it and you just continuously push into that. So I would say like blanket statements, do more of what's working, do less of what's not working, are fantastic. The one thing you want to watch out for is if in pursuing that, you end up not doing any sort of ranking or market share campaigns, it's all like low bid things, or if you end up pushing too much spend into automatic campaigns or other like looser targeting types, because in my experience, that has a very high potential to become very, very volatile almost overnight. So I would say push more to what's working as long as you keep an eye on you're not overspending on autos and you haven't eliminated market share campaigns. How come sponsor brand category? I don't know. This is so annoying. Oh my gosh, this is so annoying. Okay. So this is just kind of a thing in sponsored brand campaigns, in category and ASIN targeting. Most of the times those target keywords, not the ASINs. It does trigger ASINs sometimes, but in my experience, it triggers more it triggers more keywords. Now, I'm trying to see if they don't have product targeting in here. Huh. I was trying to look at I have the documentation pulled up. I like to look at the documentation on kind of the keyword targeting and stuff. What I would say is that unfortunately, to control the performance of either category targeting or ASIN targeting, any sort of product targeting and sponsor brands, you really just have to work on bid optimization, because the most annoying thing, it's not so much that the product targeting campaigns will trigger keywords. It's more the annoyance that you can't actually add negative keywords to product targeting and sponsor brand ads. It's like infuriating. So what often happens is that there's a certain search term that triggers that like just is wasting money and bleeding out money, and then there's nothing you can do about it, except for I would just make sure that I'm optimizing bids. And then sometimes, depending on how that performs and how much control we have over it, we just don't run product targeting sometimes in sponsor brand ads because of that factor. Is it a good idea to target the product bought in combination with yours found in the brand analytics market basket analysis report? Yes, that is a strategy that we have tried several times, and it can work really well. I would say it is well worth the test. Yeah, Matt saying, I did see the halo and the sponsor brand ads. Yes, that unfortunately is a factor of sponsor brand ads. It's, again, can be used to your advantage if you know, like if it is in certain accounts, but sometimes it can come back to bite you. So I would say just be aware of it and make sure that you are tracking it as much as possible. How can we calculate the market's conversion rate to see the difference between ours? Fantastic question. And I will give you a video and then we'll talk through a brand new report that Amazon released that is like chef's kiss, amazing, freaking love it. Let me see. I'm going to drop another video into the chat for you guys. I just have to find it. All right, cool. So let's talk about the video. So the video is talking about 2 free game-changing tools to analyze competitor conversion rates. So that is basically what you want to look at. There are... What do I go through? So there's in here, I technically talk about 2 ways, but there's a third one now. So maybe I need to make an updated video. So the first one and the easiest one to get like really quick data feedback is going to be inside the ad console, and that's called brand metrics. So what you can do is you go into the ad console on the left, like the far left hand bar, somewhere in there'll be something called brand metrics, and that one you can click on, and what you do is you select the brand that you want to look at and you select the subcategory. Our recommendation is to take a look at the specific product that you want to analyze, and then we like to grab the subcategory for that product and look at that. Now, what I will say about the brand metrics, so it's going to be able to, you're going to be able to see your conversion rate versus category averages or category like the median in your category. And in our experience, if your conversion rate is at or above the median in the category, you tend to have a much better advantage when it comes to getting more market share. Now, nuances of this report is this is for the entire brand. So what it does is it takes a look at all of your products in that category. So if you have products that share categories or you have a really large catalog, while this can be really great directionally, it's not going to be as granular as you probably want. So there's another one. These are like on the opposite ends of the spectrum. The brand metrics inside of ad console is like super zoomed out, and the other one is like zoomed way in, and the second one is your search query performance report. So you can go into search query performance. Again, you're going to have to select a specific product that you want to analyze, and then it's going to pull up all of the search queries associated with that product or that Amazon deems are the top search queries for that product. And you'll have to calculate this. So the easiest way to just download this, open it up in a spreadsheet and run the calculations. But what you do is you take the, the conversion rates in the search query performance report are called purchases. So you take purchases and you divide it by clicks. So you take the total purchases and you divide it by the total clicks on that search query. And then that will give you the average conversion rate for that search query. And then what you do is you take your brand purchases divided by the brand clicks, and that is your conversion rate on that search query, which is wildly helpful. But again, this is zoomed way into a specific search query. So if you're trying to determine like what should my ranking keywords be, how do I go more, like where do I have a strategic advantage, this is like wildly useful. But again, it's like so granular. So if you want a better view, there's a third option, which when we discovered it, I was like, oh my gosh, chef's kiss, this is freaking amazing, is now if you go into your business reports, so this is for seller accounts now, but if you go into your business reports and you look at detailed page sales and traffic by child item, you will now see on the header under the child ASIN column, there's like a new, if you click on a child ASIN, the blue link, it will then pop out a dashboard where what you can do is you can actually view your performance over time in a graph, which the stat is like awesome. So you can see like, oh wait, sales have decreased for this one product. Let me go and troubleshoot it. Is it a traffic issue? Is it a conversion rate issue? You can look at those metrics. But better than that now, what they allow you to do is whatever 2 metrics you select on the graph, you can also look at the graph for the other products that are similar in price point and also similar products to yours, and you can graph it. And you can look at, I think it's like the 10th percentile, the 25th percentile, like the 50th percentile. I think I forget the percentiles. Anyways, you can look at like the averages, the top products, and you can actually benchmark your conversion rate versus competitors on that graph. And that's probably like kind of your middle of the road view. So if you want to look at a really quick and dirty, like check it, 2 seconds, boom. I like brand metrics. If you want a super zoomed in view, if you're trying to do like keyword ranking, I like to do search query performance report. And if you kind of want that, hey, I need to troubleshoot this, then I really like the business reports view. But I would check out all three, just depending on what you need. What is the best way to segment portfolios? By margin, purpose of campaigns, rank or profit, or just make a portfolio for each product? Our default is to make a portfolio for each product. I like that. So what I would think of, there's 2 advantages to portfolios that can be wildly helpful. And so you just need to figure out what is it that I'm trying to achieve and which of these is the most helpful for me. So the first one is if you click into portfolios, you can see all of the metrics for those specific portfolios. So a great way to do this is saying like, hey, if I have a product like if I want to quickly be able to find all of my performance data on a product level, it's very helpful to have a portfolio for every single product. Now, the way we like to do this, again, because we work with a lot of clothing brands where there's like a crap ton of variations, our default is to create a portfolio for each listing, or another way to say that was a portfolio for each parent ASIN, which again, I like that. That is a really good advantage to clients because they can go in there because they have access. I mean, it's their ad console. So they can go in there and they can click on the portfolio and then see all the broken out performance of all of the products, which is quite helpful. Now, the other advantage, so that's like if your advantage is like, hey, I want to be able to just do a quick analysis of like the spend and the metrics for each individual product, and I don't have access to a tool that's going to aggregate that for me. Like we have a tool that I can go in and I can look at performance across any single product that I want. I can do parent ASIN, child ASIN. If I want to look on a SKU level, I can slice and dice it. It's bajillion different metrics other than just the ads data. Wildly useful. We've been using them for 2 years. KPOQ, KAPOQ. Highly recommend, but it's an enterprise tool, right? It costs. So if you want to be like, hey, I just want to see the spend breakouts, cross products, portfolios, grouping by parent ASINs, where it's at. Now, the second way that it can be very useful is a way to quickly filter and find a group of campaigns that you really want to pay attention to, but you may not have a really good uniform convention in your naming structure that allows you to search for them. So an example here is like, say around Prime Day. There are some campaigns we want to make extra sure of because we go through, oh my gosh, we have an intensive optimization workflow and analysis that we do going into peak sale days. And part of that is identifying what are our main campaigns that are driving the performance that we want to make sure are fully funded throughout the, throughout whatever the peak sales dates are. Right. Some of those campaigns may be across a singular product, maybe across another product, and maybe we don't necessarily want to have to go through and like rename a whole bunch of the campaigns and put a tagging on them because that's kind of clunky and then we would want to go back and revert them. So the easiest way to do that is maybe make an additional portfolio, simply move all those campaigns to that portfolio. So what I can do as an ad manager is I can go and I can click on that portfolio and I can immediately see it. Like I can analyze budgets and performance and things, but it's with a grouping that I need to make sure that I'm paying attention to. So another way to do this would be like, maybe I have some ranking tests that I'm doing, or maybe I have some testing campaigns that I want to be able to quickly go in and analyze and remember. Maybe I'm doing some tests across like 3 different products and I don't really have a consistent naming that I can like just put a search in the search bar and find those really quickly. So in that case, having a portfolio is a distinctive advantage. So pros and cons to each. So I would just say like, what is it that is you are trying to analyze and find quickly? And which of those 2 options in using portfolios can be helpful. Now, I've seen people break it out by like, oh, these are all my manuals and these are all my auto campaigns, and like kind of segment the account like that. Again, I don't really see that as an advantage because I'm like, well, maybe I want to look at my, like, why do I want to look at just the auto campaigns? I kind of want to see those in relation to everything, unless you have like some optimizations you're going through with autos. But like, there's already a filter inside of ad console for me to like segment my auto and my manual campaigns and my different ad types and stuff. So like, to me, I can easily achieve that view through a filter. So it's not an advantage to group that by a portfolio, right? So we use portfolios as, like, again, as groupings. So to either find things that you want to be able to look at and analyze together in the same view, that's helpful, or breaking it out into what segments of my account do I want to be able to see the aggregate performance of. Yeah, so these are authorized real sellers, but Baking Map, we are shutting off the sponsored brands. BSR volume is dropping. Eesh. Most likely why that's dropping, unfortunately, Matt, is because you are offsetting their sales. And when you're losing the buy box because you are not paying the ads to help prop up the sales volume, and probably they're just being lazy and just putting a really low price point in there, and trying to generate sales like that, that's why you're seeing that, which is, sorry, that kind of sucks. I would say, I mean, like, Amazon doesn't enforce MAP pricing, so that's something that the dealer has to go through, or if you are the dealer, you basically have to reach out and try and get people to force people to do it. Jeffrey has a question. In your estimation, what percentage of supplement brands tend to run high ACoS levels for non-branded search terms if total costs are kept in range? Maybe half, only a few. I'd be curious to know what you mean about high ACoS levels, because high in a supplement account is probably like 150% ACoS, where I just said 150% is high and somebody else probably gassed, because in some of those accounts, I mean, we're running now, the supplement brands that we have, we've worked with them for a long time. So we are now very well optimized and we're continuously incrementally growing, but we still are maintaining good ACoS. So I'm trying to think, we're probably running about 40 to 50% ACoS in a lot of our supplement brands. Some of our supplement brands, which they do a lot with pricing, so they're really low. Like, they've gotten really good manufacturer deals and they're really hot on the pricing. The accounts are still very profitable, but we've been able to run, I think, around 35% ACoS in like the supplement brand I'm thinking of. But again, that's because they're leaning really hard into pricing. So that's kind of like offset. And so what I would say here, it is most supplements, I will say most supplements, although the margins tend to be pretty good in supplements too. So there is that. Most supplements are running high ACoS and then you make it up with lower total ACoS is kind of what we see. Most half, only a few. So I would say, of course, my experience is going to be like talking to brands who have a problem. Like, when anyone's coming to me to talk, whether it be a coaching call, whether they're getting consulting, whether they're asking questions on these shows like this, whether they're reaching out to me or they're reaching out to potentially look for services and we're doing an audit of the brand, like, all of those have problems, right? So my demographic that I'm like pulling from in my experience is going to be like, yeah, most of them are running at really crazy high ACoS, right? But like, that's a skewed view of the market. I'm sure there's plenty of supplement brands that are doing just fine. I would say, like, if I had to guesstimate, pulling a number out of thin air, given all the experiences, just kind of like a finger in the wind kind of guess, it would probably be about half or so. I wouldn't say just a few, but most of them are running quite high. And that's just mostly a function of how high the cost per clicks are in that category, really. Can you tell about low CPC campaigns? Catch-all campaigns with low bid and dynamic don't only works good. Yes. Catch-all campaigns, low bid, broad match. What are the other ones that we run? Related targeting, sometimes a hit or miss. Also, you can test and try audiences with auto campaigns. I like segmented catch-all campaigns, waterfall auto campaigns, which is where you have like one higher bid auto and lower bid autos. But the theme, like honestly, the theme around low CPCs is just what can you get away with putting a low bid and still get impressions. That's really, so like test the crap out of everything. Like it's a low bid, worst case, you're not getting impressions. So like, are there campaign structures that I can put a low bid and I can still get some impressions on? That's basically the thesis for trying and testing low bid profitable campaigns. And I would just say like, go with that. All right. Protagon is saying, thank you. Of course, my pleasure. All right, let's see. Say you are in the clothing niche and you are a big brand, the brand owner wants to incorporate product targeting. Do you go after the big fish like Levi's, other big brands, and smaller brands? I'll give you a fantastic recommendation. I would recommend going through and figuring out where do you have a strategic advantage on in terms of like what keywords do I have good conversion rates on? Where am I going after ranking? And then what we do and going after ranking, and then also you're seeing some performance in terms of ranking. So I wouldn't do this for keywords that are like untested, but any of our keywords that are tested that we're like, wow, we're like getting really good performance on, we want to double down here. What we do is we go and we look at that search on Amazon. So you go into Amazon, type it into search, and what you're going to do is you're going to scrape the top 5, maybe 10 products that are ranked on that keyword. And what that does is it makes sure that, you know, if they're showing up high on the keyword and they're generating a lot of the traffic from that keyword, then if not only are you, you know, advertising on that keyword, then you're also showing up on all the product pages where people are clicking into from that keyword. So that's how I would do it. I would look at, so we like to do that as a strategy. And then another great strategy is going to be, if you're running, which you should be, like auto campaigns or maybe category targeting or something that already will like scrape and test ASINs for you. Then what you can do is you can go and pull those from your search term reports and use those in your ASIN targeting. So like in this case, it's like I like to let the data lead me. So I might end up targeting big fish like Levi's, and I might target big brands, but I'm probably also going to get some of those smaller brands in my net. So for me, it's all about where can I get good performance for these products? Where do I know these products work really well on the platform? How do I just, again, double down, get more of it? I wouldn't really worry about like, oh, these are a big brand. Because it like, if I'm looking at an auto campaign of a product that I'm performing on, I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm stealing market share from Levi's jeans. Holy heck, this is fantastic. Let's do more of that. But let's say in the same auto campaign, I'm looking at it like, oh my gosh, I showed up on a Levi's jeans product and I got 25 clicks and no sales. Yeah, maybe not go for that. Maybe I shouldn't spend more money. So like that's going to lead me to the conclusion or to the decision that is going to be best for that brand and going to get me the best performance. So that's how I would go about it. I wouldn't like overthink, oh, these are big brands or small brands. It's like, how do I intuitively target things that are going to be an advantage to me? And then from there, you know, you're going to find more products, more things are going to show up in the search term reports, other products are going to start ranking, and then you branch out from there. Here's a question. How do you audit an Amazon account? I will show you. I have an audit tool that I gave away. It's a YouTube video as well, which by the way, if any of you have not gotten this, so this is a PPC audit tool. This is literally, now this is not my entire audit tool. Our audit process is like way more extensive than this. But that being said, this is a huge, huge advantage. If you are not using this tool, you absolutely should be downloading it and using it. So this is an audit tool that will literally give you a break. Actually, let me show you what it is. I can actually show that to you guys. And this is what you will get access to if I can find it. Here we go. We call this our 360 ads audit tool because this literally gives you a 360 60-degree view. So this is like the SOP and how to do it. But here you'll see a breakdown of every single ad type along with some displays and graphs. There's no data in here. That's why it's not populated. But you'll see what your automatic campaigns, auto versus manual, breakouts of spend, all of the different match types, including what is broad and modified broad. Like it actually breaks up these things. You can see what your bidding strategies are, how your placements are doing, category targeting that's being run, sponsored brand analysis. You get all your match types. You get the format. Oh my gosh, if you are running sponsored brand ads and you have not gone and audited how you're doing, what you're doing in your sponsored brand ads, I can't tell you how many misses and opportunities I have found. And I'm working on it right now, but I have an entire like deck I'm putting together on how to get the most or how to develop the best ad creatives for sponsored brand ads. Cause I cannot tell you how many, like even enterprise brands that I talk to. And I'm like, hey, are you guys evaluating your sponsored brand creatives? And they're like, oh, no. We like threw up something like 2 years ago and we haven't even looked at it. And I'm like, what are you doing? There's like so much advantage to this ad type if you know how to use it. And then you can also see like where your traffic is coming from. Are you running to a store page? So basically what you do with this is you look at the ad format. Are you running headlines, video, store spotlight? And then where am I sending the traffic? And then you like pull out these things and start like really building out. And you can actually see like it will look at all of your video creatives and it'll actually give you the performance of all the video creatives. So what you do with this is you say, okay, this is the format that's working. This is the landing page that's working. So I already know what format. I already know where I'm sending the traffic. And then when I look at the creatives, be it the video or the lifestyle, these are the ones that are performing best. And then you just like plug all these things together. Fantastic. And then sponsored display ads, same thing. We're looking at all the ad types. Looking at purchases, like what look back windows are you testing? Again, I can't tell you how many of I have seen that like they're not even testing different look back windows. TKC wants to know, does your tool pull pause campaigns data or only campaigns that are turned on? Fantastic question. Yes, it will pull pause campaigns if the pause campaigns, again, the video that I shared with you guys, this one, PPC audit tool, that will show you how to download the report. Now there's a new option in there that you can, when you select, it's all pulled from a bulk file. When you select the bulk file, if you select paused and enabled campaigns, as long as the paused campaigns, the data is in there, it will pull that data. But I'll show you what it actually does, which is nice. Here you can see it'll pull in all the data, but it'll actually tell you the number of active targets and then the number of targets with spent. So it will pull in anything that is paused or unpaused, like all of it. However, what I wanted to know is like, okay, so maybe I have data. Like I can't tell you how many times I've looked at, let's go back and look here. Like ad format, it'll say number of active campaigns. So it will give you like, oh, how is fixed bids doing? So maybe I'll see spend on it, but like the number of campaigns that are active that have that bid optimization strategy in there, it will tell you. So you can look at like, oh, this wasn't performing, but like example is like, say a number of active targets. Like maybe we had some related targeting and we'll see some spend and we're like, oh, that was underperforming. And then it's like, oh, we have 0 active targets. So in that case, like I've already paused and taken care of it. So yes, because that is something that I wanted to know is like, was it something that was actually active or not? That's all there. Again, watch the video, link in the description to get your email. Just put in an email. Ooh, good question. Yeah, because you're saying, how do you audit an Amazon report based on the search report? There's only one keyword that converts. In that case, you let the brand know that, hey, you only have one keyword that is converting. Yeah, so there was one brand that I audited. They wanted to grow the brand. And when I audited their account, they're like, oh, look, we have, forget what their ROAS was. It was really good. It was equivalent to like a 15% total A cost or something. Like, yeah, we have like fantastic performance. We want to grow and we can't grow. And when I looked at their account, I was like, Guys, when you look at the search terms, you do not have a single non-branded keyword that converts for your product. Like all of this is branded, and that's why your ROAS is great. And when you blend in the unbranded, the picture is not pretty. So actually we didn't end up working with that brand because it was like, hey guys, you guys have a lot of optimization and things to do first. I'm not going to be able to get you the performance you need because they basically just wanted to keep that ROAS, and they're like, why can't we scale this ROAS? And I'm like, it's because the product does not convert anywhere. So I would say the best rule of thumb in doing any audit is to be wildly transparent, like as transparent as you possibly can. Your goal as the ad expert is to give them insights into their account based on your complete understanding and knowledge of Amazon advertising. So, I mean, like this report is given away for free. Anyone can take it, you can pull it, you can analyze your own data, and I hope you do. But translating this information into, okay, I understand that maybe modified broad match, I'm not taking advantage of that. Wait, okay, so how do I take advantage of that? What's the best strategy? How do I go about building those? Should I build those for all the products? Like there's a ton of questions when it comes to strategy execution. And so our goal or like what we do in terms of audits is like you look at the account data and you can say this is working, this is not working. But then what you need to do as a skilled ad manager is filter through the noise, because there's so many different things that can be executed. But what brands need to know is what is the 1, 2, 3 things that if we do them are going to get me to my goals. Is it that I have an over reliance on auto campaigns and so there's volatility and there's no market share campaigns built out? You need market share to grow. Okay, we need this, right? So it's your understanding of how do ads influence sales growth? How can we find the biggest levers to do that profitably? And then you just build that out, and that is your ad strategy. But that's basically what the audit is it's not just saying, oh, you don't have this, you don't have this. We need to add negatives. We need to do bid optimizations. Yeah, they already know that. What they want to know is what strategies am I missing? What roadblocks are in my account that are causing me to not be able to achieve the goals that I have for my account. And so it's really important to understand goals. Like I am so bullish. I don't think you can do a good ads audit if you don't fully understand the brand's goals. Like you can't. I can tell you, like I can look at any account and I can tell you things that can be improved. Well, if I don't understand what the brand goals are, I will not be able to give them the 1, 2, 3 hit list of things that need to be executed to achieve those goals. Because if I'm auditing a brand that wants aggressive growth, and I'm auditing a brand that wants high amounts of profitability, those 2 ad strategies and the 1, 2, 3 of what needs to be executed to achieve those is going to be in a lot of cases like polar opposite. So what we do is we look at the brand, we look at where we are now, we look at the history of like what has been the performance changes over the last, I think we look at over 30 days. And then we say, okay, what KPIs are changing? Which ones do we need to focus on based on the trajectory of the brand? Do we need to focus on to get the brand to the goals that they're looking for? What are the strategies that we have in play based on the current account performance, based on this deck right here, that we know will help influence those KPIs, that we know will bring us to our goals, and then we just, we list that out in terms of execution, and then we just, if they decide to work with us, then we execute on them. So it can sound more complex. How can you identify if the product is not a market fit? Search query performance is going to be the best one. So I would highly recommend, if they are brand registered, they have to be brand registered for that. But I would look at the search query performance report. I would pull it out for that ASIN, and then I would calculate the product conversion rate versus the average conversion rate. And I would calculate the click-through rate, which is going to be the total clicks divided by the total impressions. And then for that particular product, you're going to look at the brand clicks divided by brand impressions. And then between those two things, to be like, oh, is our click-through rate on par with the averages for this keyword? And is our conversion rate on par for the averages of this keyword? And if you cannot find anything that you have a strong conversion rate on, then it's most likely a market share problem. Now, if you have decent conversion rates and poor click-through rates in search query performance, then it's probably like a main image thing or title or price point sometimes. Or sometimes you're just in the beginning where you have few star ratings. And so in that case, it kind of just takes time to build. What is the main purpose of search query performance, or is it different between search and reports? Yes, there's a massive difference between search term reports and the search query performance, and it has to do with what data is contained in those reports. So search query performance is going to give you the data for a specific product on an individual shopper's search. So in terms of like, it'll say search query, and then in ad column, in the ads report, it's going to say search term. Those are basically the same thing. You can think of them as the same thing. And so, but with the search query performance report, you also get what is the averages for like products that are shown on the search queries as well, which is wildly useful, right? It's market share data. Fantastic, right? Search term reports don't give you that. Now you have search term impression share, but that just tells you what your impressions are relative to the market, which can be helpful to know if you're being aggressive or not, but it's not going to be helpful to know like, hey, is this something that I have a strategic advantage on? It just tells me like, where am I getting the most visibility? So search query performance report, I really like it for identifying key opportunities, or as we discussed in your previous question, identifying where I'm maybe lagging behind the market. Now, there are a lot of people who look at search query performance report and then go back and look at their search term report and be like, wait, there's way more orders in the search term report than it shows in the search query performance report. And that is true. That is because your search query performance or search query reports only reports the data that happens on the search page. So that search page is like, and it doesn't include things like, it won't include any of the what's called widgets. So if you ever seen like those blocks in search that say like, higher than 4-star ratings, or what is the other ones? I forget. I'd have to look at a search page to find them. But like there's certain things I'm going to show you because visually I think it's really helpful to look at this stuff. All right, let's share this tab and we'll put this up. Okay, so I just searched women's shirt. It's the first thing that I thought of. So search query performance report will include ads data and organic data, which is again different than the search term report. But it won't include this. So any sponsored brand ads. And also see where it says like inspired by similar searches. This is technically an ad spot on this search page. So the impressions inside of your search term report and whatever data is that it is going to show this. But it's not that, those impressions, those clicks and orders and whatever are not going to show up in search query performance report. Also anything sponsored brands, not going to show up in search query performance report. These things will. So you can see how already on the search page, there's a ton of stuff that like won't actually show. The other thing is with the search term report, sponsored product ads have a 7-day attribution window, which means if somebody comes back and purchases within clicking of the ad within 7 days, that's going to show up in those reports. And so that's something that's not included in search query performance. It's only 24-hour data. So as you can imagine, the orders are going to be less because somebody clicks and then goes on to purchase, and it doesn't show any data that is like anything that's happening on the product pages either. So it's not that like it's missing data. It's what data is contained in the report. So my recommendation is to use a search query performance reports to identify where do I have an advantage? Where does my product convert better than the market? Where can I know that I have a strategic advantage? And then we use search term reports to say, okay, now how are my ads doing? Am I aggressive enough? How is my performance? Can I afford to spend more? So those two things I would say work together in harmony, but they don't replace each other, if that makes sense. But fantastic question. And with that, we are at the end of the hour and even a little bit over. Excuse me. So if anyone, by the way, is interested, if I've said anything interesting, you're like, hey, I would love to hear what you think of my ads account, feel free to reach out to us on our website, Junglr, JUNGLR.com. You can request to get an ads audit. If you qualify, we will go through everything top to bottom. We'll give you your sort of strategy report, and we hope it is valuable. And then, of course, we hope it's so valuable you want to work with us. But either way, we will definitely make sure you get some answers in your account. Of course, that is for brands who might be potentially interested in services. But for everyone else, make sure you show up same time, same place next week so you can get your Amazon ad questions answered. And with that, I will see you in the next one. And that wraps up this episode of the Ask Junglr Amazon Advertising Podcast. I hope you found these insights and strategies helpful in your Amazon PPC journey. Remember, if you have a burning Amazon ad question that you'd like answers to, head over to junglr.com/live to join our next live Q&A session. Until next time, keep optimizing those ads and stay hungry.